Of course, with Tailwindcss, we can deal with Flex. Flex, it's a CSS property that helps us to put elements next to each other or to pick the order of the element that we want to show. We can also work with columns, rows, etc., to display the elements in the order that we want. So basically on Tailwindcss, and here I got my app running, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the classes to trigger a specific order on my div. So I got a parental div up there, and what I want to do, I want to create a first div that will be actually my main content. All right, and what I want to have also is a div that is going to be my sidebar. So I got those two divs inside a parent, okay, and let's say that this one we are going to call it parent, okay, and those two one are children. All right, so when I get back to my app, I got those two divs on top of each other. They are like a column, okay, they are not in a row, they are like a column. And what I would like to have is basically to have this sidebar next to the main content, because I want to have my sidebar on the side. So what I can do is to use the property flex. With the property flex provided by Tailwindcss, I'm adding to the parent a display flex on the CSS. So when I get back, we see now that my main content and my sidebar are now on the same row. And if I open my console and I look at these elements, all right, I got flex there. And what I got is this purple rectangle all along there that shows that on the same row, he aligned every element on the width that is automatically assigned or on the width that you picked up previously. And if I look there on the CSS, so I'm going to move again, we have there the display flex that has been applied. Now I want to add a header. I get back, and what I'm going to do on the top, I'm going to create a new class, a new div, sorry, with inside header. And when I get back, the thing is that now I got a new div, and in this new div, here I'm on my parent, and what our parent did, our parent has a display flex. So he put every div that he has inside of him, and he put them inside the same row. And this is not what we want actually. What we want is to have the header on the first row, then the main content and the sidebar on the second row, because we want our header to be on the top of these two elements, main content and sidebar. So what I can do is to remove my flex there. But instead, what I'm going to have is a sidebar on the bottom, almost like a footer. And that's not what I want. What I can do is to wrap those two elements into another div, okay? I can wrap my main content and my sidebar in a flex there, in a flex element, and I got exactly what I want. Suddenly, I got my main content and my sidebar on a row, and I got my header on another row. So this is how you can organize your application with flex property. And there's a lot of other elements we will see that we can use. If I go on flex direction, I see that I got several ways of displaying my flex divs. So here I got a first way, which is flex row, and it applies a flex direction row to my element. So there I already got my two elements next to each other, okay? And if I had my flex row in here, flex row, nothing will change because main content and sidebar with flex are already on the same row, all right? But if I look there, I get also a flex call. And flex call, actually, this is like if I didn't have any flex. And what's going to happen, it's going to create a column there. So instead of having this, I can let flex, and here I can let, for instance, a flex row. Yes, there we go. Let's say that inside my sidebar, okay, I would have another div, which is sidebar, and down there I would have a menu. All right. what I have in this complex element, a sidebar and a menu basically on flex call. Without flex, so my parent there doesn't get any flex, I got naturally a flex call. But sometimes you would need to specify that you want to have a flex call. So basically what you're going to do is exactly the same. You're going to type first flex, then you're going to add flex call, because you want, okay, that on your sidebar everything would be a colon. All right, so there we go, we've got it. Let's get back to flex direction, and we see that we can reverse the direction, and this is why we are in flex direction. So I'm going to copy paste flex row reverse, and I'm going to go there on the parent. Actually, not the parent there, but the children that is parent of main content and this sidebar. So I'm going to add here next to this flex row reverse, and let's look what is going to happen. When I get back, what I have is my two elements that have been reversed. Main content is supposed to be the first div, and finally it's sidebar and menu that appear as first. It's because I've used flex row reverse. Okay, and now let's see if we remove the flex row that we put before and the flex that is here, and I save and I get back. What happened is that nothing happens anymore. Nothing happens anymore. I got my flex row reverse, but on my CSS down there, we can see that I got here a problem. And this problem says that we have to put another property to say what display do you want to use. So let's just try there. It talks about display block. And if I put display block, nothing happens. Nothing happens because flex direction actually needs to get flex as a property. So what you got to do is always to specify flex before you use a flex class after. Let's remove these reverse properties that we've got for now. And let's get back on our main element. So here I get to remove also my flex, and there we go. This is supposed to be my application with a main content and a sidebar menu. But what I want to have is basically, I want to have space. I want to have a big main content. And to do that, what I can do is to use flex grow. Flex grow helps us to make a div where we had the property flex at a certain size. And if we look at the example down there, we've got grow that we can use on the column we want to grow. And we've got also, we see flex none on other columns. So I need to add grow not to my parent, but to my main content. Because this is my main content that I want to be grow. So I'm going to get back, and there we go. We see that my main content take all the space, and next my content where I added flex none take the size he had to take. Let's talk now about flex basis. So we can deal with column size this way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get back to my main content there. I'm going to add a class name, and I'm going to add basis, and here I want to have 3 of 4 of the size of the screen, and down there my class name, of course, I want to have, of course, 1 on 4. So I'm going to save, get back, update, and now there we go. We see that main content is going to take 3 of 4 of the row size and 1 on 4 for the sidebar. And if I go down, it's exactly the same. It is working the same way, but there's a moment the content of the sidebar will stick to the size that we applied with flex basis. So there's a lot of example. You can also use the basis with a certain size already determined by Tailwind. It's really useful, and of course you can work also on the hover and focus with that. So basically we would need that to apply some sizes to some elements. And if I would have another sidebar, so let's say that we're gonna go there and put another sidebar. What I would do here is that actually it would not work, okay? It would not work exactly the way we want to work. What we would do instead is to put 2 on 4th, okay? So if I put 2 on 4, I got here 1 column. Here main content will take 2 on 4, and this one 1 on 4. And it can go up to 12. So if we put 12 to every value there, I would say that here I would have a 2, and here I would have, for instance, a 6, and 6 plus 2, it's 8, it misses 4, so I can put 4 up there. When I get back and I update, there we go, we have a size of 4 applied here, a size of 6 applied here, and a size of 2 applied here on 12. So basis help us basically to deal with the original size of every div on a row. And actually I want to invert. I want to put first my sidebar, then my main content. Then I'm going to add to my sidebar a width. So I'm going to add the width, let's say 32, okay. And what I want to have there, I want to have a width full of my main content. So I'm going to get back there, updating, and there we go. I got my sidebar and my main content. And what I want to do actually is that when I'm going to just go down like this, I want my main content to come under my sidebar there. All right. So to be more clear, I'm going to add some color. I'm going to add a BG red 600 to my main content. Okay. So when I update, there we go. I got the red part. And there I'm going to add a BG sky of 500 to my sidebar. All right, there we go. So we've got these two elements there. And what I want to do, I want to change the flex properties when I arrive on a certain size. So how could I do this? How could I do this? Let's get back to the documentation and let's get back to the flex direction. So when I get back on there, here we see that what I can do is to add, for instance, let's add this flex column and on MD flex row. I go there. And on my parent, I had flex call. What's happening is that I'm on a row. But if I go down, suddenly I have a mobile behavior. Okay, I got a mobile behavior. And my sidebar doesn't take the whole space. So I can do actually exactly the same. I can put my medium on the size of the sidebar. So basically here, what we've got is that my space is automatically fulfilled. So this is how we can work actually with flex direction depending on the screen size that you have. So on a mobile, you would have a different behavior, and Tailwind is very useful for that, okay? Tailwind is very easy to deal with. For instance, you got also the flex wrap properties that helps you to basically wrap or not your content. Let's take this example there. So I'm going to copy paste this and get back. I'm going to go directly on this row. So basically I'm going to remove what I did. Okay. I'm going to put this, there we go. And I'm going to put class name. So I got my elements there. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And let's say that I want them, all of them to be. So basically we work with what we've learned with full or grow. And what's going to happen is that it's not taking all the size because I have to specify a width full. And there we go. So I got my elements there. So I got my 3 columns there. And we see that they don't wrap. Wrap, it means that you want the element to go automatically on a new row at the line actually. And if I had several other elements, okay, so 4 or 5, there we go. We see that we stay on a row. We stay on the same row. On the opposite, what we can use is wrap. So we used flex no wrap until now. Now I'm going to use flex wrap. And what is going to happen is that every column is on width full. So they all go to the line because they take all the space. But instead of having a width full, let's say that they have a property of 32. okay? And with 32, we see that automatically we go to the line because we added a flex wrap property. So with wrap, you can go directly to the line. And of course, exactly like flex colon, you get flex wrap reverse if you want to invert. And you can, of course, use them with the media queries properties. Let's talk about now the justify content property. Sometimes you have elements like this, and you want to justify them in a specific place. And very often, you want to justify them in the center, as we see there. What we can do is to use justify center. So there I came back, I have my sidebar and my main content with no property, okay? So let's say that up there on the flex parent, I want to specify that they justify on the center. I want to have my sidebar and my main content div on the center. Okay, I don't want to have them on the left, don't want to have them on the right, I want to have them on the center. So I'm going to save, I'm going to update, and there we go. We see that I got my content now on the center. Actually, this is not really what I want to have. What I want to have actually is to have a justify start. Start, it means on the beginning of the row, so on the left. Start is for the left. So basically, I have the initial state. So I can remove basically this justify. All right. But let's say that now I want to justify on the right. So now I need to specify. I need to specify that I want to justify, and this one is going to be end. End is for the right. And when I save, okay, and I update, suddenly my content is on the right. So you use justify content, all right? You use justify content to specify where you want this element to be. But there is another one which is interesting. It's justify between, so space between. With space between and justify between, actually, you can say that you want that there is equal space between elements. And so if I type justify between here and I save, okay, we see that my sidebar, okay, is on the left and my main content is on the right. Why? Because those two columns, they got actually the same size. I mean, they are automatically on their content size, and they created space between it, okay? Justify between created space between those two elements. And sometimes it's very useful. We want to create an equal space between elements. If I had a new column, let's say another sidebar, okay, another sidebar, what is going to happen is that there will be equal space between those three elements. So when I get back, there we go. Finally, you got space evenly. And let's look at the definition of space evenly. Use justify evenly to justify item along the container's main axis such that there is an equal space amount around each item. Evenly, and there we go. There is an equal space created between all these elements. For Flexbox, we use also align items. We saw that on a row, we want to deal with the space between elements and how to order them. But actually now on the vertical, how we do? Actually on the vertical, we use align items. So here I got align items, and here I got a justify evenly. So let's say that on my main content, I will add an H1, so main content, and P here, I'm going to add some lorem ipsum. So I'm going to type lorem ipsum, there we go. So I got some text there, and there we go. We see that actually, what's happening is that all the content is aligned on the top. So when there is text on the sidebar, it starts on the top, okay? And main content starts on the top, and another sidebar starts on the top, and here it's wrapping. So here, what I could do with flex property is to actually, okay, use item start. And we got the same example there, 1, 2, 3. Everything is aligned on the top. So I use item start to align on the top. But here it makes no sense because it's already by default align on the top. Let's say that now we want to align everything on the center. So if I put items center instead of start, and suddenly we see that sidebar is on the center and another sidebar on the right is also on the center. Everything is aligned on the center. And it is based on the size of the highest content division. And the highest content division there, it's actually this one. We see that we have 96 pixels of 8 and the sidebar is 24. So it calculates actually how to align in the center those two elements. And it's the same for the other one there on the right. For the sidebar, we have 48. It calculates automatically to align on the center. Of course, you understand now that to align on the end, we can put items end, and when I update, so now on the bottom, we've got everything aligned with item end. Another example, maybe a bit more tricky, we can copy paste this. It's the baseline. So the baseline, it's based on the line that starts inside your div. So I'm going to copy paste this. I'm going to get back, and for now we've got this example. What I'm going to do is to just remove all of this and put the official example. And instead of class, I'm going to add class name, and there we go. Okay. So when I update there, we see that I got some elements, and to put more space, I'm going to add a BG Sky 500 to the first one. Then I'm going to add a BG Red 500 to this one. And I'm going to add a BG Green 500 to the third one. So I got some padding that is applied. And I got item baseline there put as a class on my div. So when I get back and I update, we see that what's happening with item baseline is that we align everything on actually basically the content. And the baseline of the content, it's 1, 2, 3. But our divs, they have padding, so they have a different height, or they can have also a different width, but here they have a different height. We see that even they have a different height and they don't start on the first line here on the top or on the center or on the bottom, what's happening here with item baseline? We based all our div on the baseline.